Welcome back to the Football Fitness Federation podcast. This is episode 189. I'm delighted to welcome onto the podcast. I'm not sure why it's the first time, Kamal, because I feel like you should have been on already, but Kamal Ishmael joins me, head of physical development at West Ham United Women. So Kamal, thank you very much for coming on.
Hey, thanks for inviting us, and good to see you again. Been a while since the last time.
It has, mate. It has. And anyone that came to the Colchester networking event would have seen Kemal present there, which a few things happened in the world directly after that meeting. That's how much of an effect that Kemal's presentation had on the world. It just blew it up. It was that good.
Not do that again then. Yeah.
But no, it's good to see you, mate. And obviously a change of roles and stuff, which we'll get into in a little bit. But do you want to kick us off, like similar to how you did at the event, with your background, your career, and then just take us up to what you're doing now?
Yeah, of course. Well, I mean, so I think I covered a lot of it, but to be fair, like I've just always been engulfed in sport, competition, everything. You know, I played and competed quite a lot in things when I was younger, but I think like most of us realized that I was never going to be, you know, playing at that top level, but I just knew I wanted to be around it and engulfed in it, and just wanted to strive towards that. So I did my bachelor's at University of Brighton. A lot of good things and a lot of things which I didn't enjoy, you know, and I think that's just that's part of anything, and I think that kind of helped guide me towards the things which I did enjoy a lot more of. And I still keep in contact with, you know, quite a lot of people from there, and even Gary Brickley. He is supervising me on my bases at the moment, so hopefully finish that off soon. But yeah, made a lot of good contacts. Left there and wasn't 100% sure on what I wanted to pursue, but I knew that sports science and S&C was kind of the avenue I wanted to grow on a little bit more. And I did a couple internships. Was able to in my final year worked with the badminton team over there, the female badminton team, and then after I graduated, internship with Wimex Tennis Academy down in Chingford with a guy called Ukca Hussein, who was fantastic, helped me a lot, and kind of made me realize, you know what, that's what I want to do. How do I do it? And you know, when you're looking at job ads and you're thinking, yeah, I've got that, not got that. So I kind of used that to help guide what I wanted to do a bit more, and applied for a master's course at Salford. And got on, and it was probably the best thing I ever did. You know, like honestly, the lecturers and the students there were fantastic and just helped me grow, helped drive me in a direction I wanted to go in, and it was fantastic. And they opened up so many doors in terms of like other opportunities, and I was able to work with Bradford Bulls Rugby League, Team Northwest Netball. And you know, they allowed me to help out with some of the undergrad lectures and stuff as well. So I've got a full all-rounded experience. And just the lecturers in particular, you know, Paul Comfort, Paul Jones, John McMahon, and a couple of the PhD guys, Chris Thomas and Tom DeSantos, worked with all of them. We were able to publish a couple of things together as well. It was just fantastic, honestly. It really helped me. And I even thought about staying up there, you know, but then something at Charlton popped up with a few guys that I did my undergrad course with, Harry Behrman and Joe Ranson and stuff like that. And they were fantastic. Got interned for a little bit and then got a full-time position there. So yeah, do your internships, because fingers crossed they open up doors. And yeah, spent 3-4 years there. Brilliant. Moved up from 9s to 16s to 18s, worked all across the PDP, helped out with the first team sporadically. Like, yeah, just fantastic. Really enjoyed it. And yeah, I still love Charlton. I still go to their games every now and again when I can. Like, really good. Yeah, you know, I having moved up from 9s to 16s to 18s, helping out with the 23s, helped out with the first team a couple of times. I thought, okay, yeah, I want to keep going. I want to keep pushing. But at the time, I knew nothing above was going to change. And even now, you know, the first team guys are still there, which is fantastic. You know, they're doing a great job. And so I started looking elsewhere, and head of Academy Sports Science popped up at Colchester. Yeah, working with Perry for that season was fantastic. He helped me, he allowed me to help out with the first team every now and again as well. And then, yeah, COVID struck, and all went to mess, but the first team finished in the playoffs, which was amazing. And so we actually worked all the way through. I came in and I helped out in that that little playoff push, and we were unfortunate to not go up, but overall we had a great season. You know, we were part of the team which pushed on through the Carabao Cup, and got to the latter rounds against, you know, Man U, and yeah, the playoff was a really interesting experience, you know, having watched the Charlton promotion through the playoffs the season before, and then being involved in that playoff push under COVID restrictions, and it really surreal. But then Perry moved on to Millwall that season, and I was fortunate enough to get the first team role, and did that for a couple seasons, and now moved on to West Ham Women.
Brilliant. And so we've just been talking before we start recording. You've been at West Ham since November, did you say?
Yeah, November. So just over 6 months now, I think. Yeah.
Brilliant. And I think it'd be good to start with that transition to the women's game. And I know it's 6 months in, but initially, what have been the sort of similarities, differences? Like, how have you found that transition?
Yeah, so I mean, it was really exciting when it came up. And I spoke to a few people about it. I spoke to Owen at Arsenal, and I've got Harry McCulloch at Chelsea, and just kind of felt out, you know, the women's game and how it is and stuff like that. I didn't want to go in blind. And I've worked with female athletes before, so that wasn't really my concern. I just kind of wanted to know, like, so how is the WSL? Is it pushing? And I mean, especially since the last World Cup, I think, especially in England, the women's game has really been flying. And to be fair, come in and I've not looked back. It's been fantastic. And all of the players have been amazing. And yeah, the staff have been good as well. And I think, you know, Paul Konchesky's just been appointed as the manager too. So I think the club it's starting to throw its weight behind it. And yeah, I mean, fingers crossed we can do some really big things in the coming years. But, you know, the club's got a plan, and I think myself coming in, and we've brought in a couple other people too. I think we're really trying to do things the right way, and really push on. And yeah, it's exciting, to be fair, really exciting.
I always like asking people when they've gone into a new role, like what their approach is, because I think everyone takes it slightly differently. I know majority of people now aren't going to say I go in and I rip it all up and I start from scratch. I know that's the case, but it's just interesting to get into your mindset going into a new club, obviously meeting players, meeting staff. There might be some people there that you have a relationship already with, there might not. So what were those, if we take you back to maybe the first few weeks or even the first few days, like what was your sort of initial approach to that?
Yeah, so really good question, because this was something which I really had to sit down and think about a lot. I've never moved places mid-season, so it was a complete different sensation. And I went in and I said to everyone, look, I'm not going to change much. If anything, I'm not going to try and change much at all, because even if I rip everything up and put in the perfect plan, for lack of better words, it could all just go to shit, you know, because you change too much mid-season. The players are used to a certain program. You spike workloads, or you dip workloads, or you end up changing things here and there. It could all just go. It could all go Pete Tong. So yeah, I mean, I came in and I really tried to not change too much straight away. But a couple of things which I really had to kind of do was there was no kind of individualized gym programs. So I that was the first thing I did, but we didn't really have much testing data to go off of either. So I sat down with the physios and we worked over, you know, previous injuries, and I sat down with the players actually one-to-one as well and just spoke with them. So, you know, if a player hates back squatting but they love hex bar deadlifting, then yeah, like, what do I care? We're getting the same squat movement in, so fine. So yeah, that's how it kind of went in. Just tried not to change too much, tried to feed in a few things, and just try to individualize things a little bit more. I was speaking with the head coach at the time. He didn't really periodize the week too much. He just he wanted to do 11v11 most days. And I mean, when you go to some places, that is going to be the case. So I just had to sit down with him and speak about, look, we need to get more of a small area day in here, more of a big area day in here. We want our high speed day in here. We want, take the foot off the pedal here. No, we don't want to do a 2-hour session, So it was just kind of like speaking with everyone a little bit, I guess, and just trying to work in what I wanted or what I felt the team needed in certain areas. And, you're going to be told no at times, and then your advice is going to be taken on at times as well. So it was definitely a different sensation, but a really steep learning curve in terms of like that people management and stuff like that, and just kind of trying to build that department up from scratch, and just and then that's kind of how the first few weeks went. And then as we got closer to Christmas, the women's games got that Christmas break, which is amazing. Not had that in years. So we used that time to get some testing data in, and the boys academy here have been brilliant. We're on the same site with the under-18s at Chadwell Heath, so we were able to use their Nord boards and Goring bars and stuff like that, and we've got our own force plates, which is fantastic. So we're able to get like a full kind of athletic performance spectrum tested, to be fair. And then so since the new year, we've kind of used that to help inform a little bit more of that individualization. And it's really kicked on, to be fair. And hopefully we can build on it next year.
Brilliant. That's one thing I wanted to go into as well, was possibly talking about what doors or options have opened up to you with the move. Because going from Colchester to West Ham, obviously West Ham being a Premier League club, resources, facilities, things like that. And I know you've mentioned a few then, but is there anything else where you feel like it's opened up options for you with your programming that you maybe didn't have available before?
Yeah, I mean, it is kind of a different world, to be fair. I mean, at Colchester, I think we definitely did the best that we had with the resources that we had available to us. But a lot of it was, kind of just like, all right, well, we don't have access to this, so what are we going to do? And it was kind of working around stuff. And, especially I'm sure everyone that worked in football and sport and even life during COVID times had to adapt things, but not able to use indoor facilities, and the club wasn't willing to shell out for like a big tent gazebo kind of thing to put gym equipment under. So then you're just kind of working around things and just trying to make the best of the current situation. Whereas at West Ham, everything's been a little bit more just easier, I guess is the word, like more access to just more, which is incredible. But I think having those previous experiences have been fantastic, because then when something isn't available here, it's like, well, hang on, it's not the end of the world, like this is the fix, this is the workaround. And so some of that problem solving is obviously going to come in handy, definitely. But and then in terms of like more, just I feel like it's definitely opened up a lot more doors in terms of working with other practitioners. So I've had multiple conversations with Ruth over at the England FA, who's currently working with the PDP under 18s, under 19s, I believe, at England. Jack Sharkey, who's obviously just taken over at Australia Women, had multiple conversations with him. So it's opened up a lot more doors in terms of liaising and working with other practitioners in the game, and that's been fantastic. And I think we're all realizing, look, we're in the same boat, and let's help each other push on, because that it's better not only for our athletes but for the women's game as well.
Brilliant. I remember asking you, Kamal, when you did the presentation for us, you showed clips, and obviously it was a really quick insight into the program at Colchester. But a takeaway automatically from me from both the work that you did and what Perry was doing as well was, whether we call it buy-in, whether we call it intent in the sessions, that's what I saw from every clip that you put up. It wasn't people going through the motions. Players obviously respected and understood a lot of the things they were doing and probably why they were doing it as well. So one thing I was going to ask you was, taking that, obviously being at that club, knowing the players, knowing the program and embedding that in, then leaving and going into a new role. And it might be quite early to ask this, only 6 months in, but how have you taken that sort of philosophy and maybe tried to recreate it, or whether it is a case of building a new one at West Ham?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think you can ever completely replicate something from one club to another club, because there's different demands, there's different setups, there's different people, different infrastructure, different everything. So when people say, oh, let's do something the Borussia Dortmund way, well, no, like take things from it, but don't just copy it word for word, because it won't work for you, because it's not going to fit into your thing. So that's kind of, those first couple of weeks where I was feeling things out, feeding things in, so just an example, the pre-ab and pre-activation stuff before training, when I came in, the girls would just grab their foam rollers, grab a mat, sit down for 10-15 minutes, do their bits, a couple extra stretches, and then that was it, go out to train. And then I spoke with a couple of players, because it's not something which I wanted to just rip up, because I could see that they actually enjoyed doing that. So I was like, okay, well, look, rather than giving you 10-15 minutes to do that, you'll have 5 minutes to do that, and then 5 minutes we're going to go over and we're going to do a different circuit or a different routine or something altogether. So I think part of that, coming in, seeing what was currently going on within the group, seeing what the current setup was, and then feeding a few of my things in there, speaking with the players, speaking with the staff, figuring out what was working, what wasn't working, what they didn't like from the previous regime and what they did like, and then what they didn't like from what I brought in as well. There's a lot of stuff which the girls will turn around and be like, no, didn't like that. It's like, all right, no problem. Well, I'll do something different, which is going to get me the exact same thing what I wanted to get out of that session. So a bit of trial and error, and a lot of conversations with the players. And I think we're definitely getting there in terms of that. And I think a large part of it is just trying to encourage that ownership and that autonomy within the group. And I think the head of performance and wellness, Jenny Coe, is fantastic at that as well, and she's supported a lot of that kind of ownership and autonomy pieces. And I think the players have really gradually bought into it. And even a lot of the players which hated gym at the start when I first came in, we've worked with them, we've altered things to exercises which they did like, rather than trying to force a player to do something which they don't like. If there's something which they do like and it gets the exact same results, then let's do it, So I think we're definitely getting there, and I think next season will be that big, kind of step into going there. But I think a large part of that huge buy-in has also been the testing. We've been trying to test a lot more regularly, and I think they've really appreciated just seeing numbers and seeing GPS data and that kind of stuff, and seeing all the green where they've been improving and stuff like that. I think that's really brought a lot of that buy-in within the group.
Yeah, that's really interesting, isn't it? And it's a thing that I think a lot of coaches struggle with, is when, like you mentioned before, about the girls questioning possibly things you bring in or saying they don't like it. And that's the point in time where you can either find a middle ground, and create more respect between the two sides, or that's when you get the separation of saying, no, it's my way. And that's where you got to tread carefully, isn't it? And it sounds like you've going at having those conversations and finding out more about each individual. In the long term, it allows you to get more out of what you want to get from the program, doesn't it?
Yeah, definitely. And I mean, look, there are times where you have to put your foot down, but overall, if what they're asking for isn't isn't, you know, that out of the question. Why not listen to them, and why not take their opinion on board? Because at the end of the day, it's going to increase that buy-in. It's not going to affect your program in a negative way. And all it is actually going to do is it's going to increase your buy-in within the whole group as well. You know, players talk. So if you just had a big bust up with a player because you said, no, you have to do front squat, you're not allowed to do back squat in this program, they're just going to go into the change room and, you know, bite your head off to all of the players. So if it's not something which is that serious, you know, why not take their opinion on board?
And how do you get around the players then, Kemal? Because you're going to have a squad of a reasonable number of players there. And this is one thing I've asked a few people before, is that to have those in-depth kind of conversations and find out like each individual, are you just trying to catch them at the point that you can catch them, or are you trying to officially book something in? Like, how do you go about that?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it is tough and it's not easy. And I think it's something which you have to actually go out of your way to do. But I think you've got to know players. So I know that there's a few players who would hate to sit down in a formal way and have that conversation. So I know that I just would not do that with those individuals unless I really had to. But what I would do is I'll just catch them in the hallway, or at lunchtime, if they're all right with it, I'll just sit down and have a little chat with them. Or, you know, even during prehab, during that first 5 minutes where I give them a little bit of time to themselves, that's where I'll just sit down and have a little conversation with them. But then I know that there's some players who will want to sit down, go in extreme depth, ask a billion questions. And so I'll just say to them, look, do you want to have a meeting tomorrow, you know, at 2 o'clock after training? So I think a little bit of that is the man management and just knowing your players, knowing who wants to do what, and just being open and available to them. And I think we're quite fortunate here at West Ham, where the club and hierarchy actually allocates specific time for if players want to sit down and go over clips, or want to, you know, have a chat with the gaffer or the assistant or the GK coach or whoever. And I'll fit into that. You know, I'll have certain time slots where if players just want to come up to me and speak about stuff, we'll do that. But then especially around, you know, after we've just done a batch of testing, you know, I'll try to sit down with the players and, you know, go over their testing. And some of them will have concerns as to why they've gotten faster, but their counter movement jump hasn't gotten higher, and, you know, just things like that. So I think a bit of it is knowing your players, and a bit of it is just, you know, making sure that you're going out of your way and showing them that you're available, whether it's just ad hoc or if it is a more, you know, sit down formal conversation.
And I know you've mentioned it as like a kind of a motivational tool in terms of the benchmarking, but it's obviously going to give you a lot of information as well. What was in place before, Kemal? And then is it just been a case of like additional work that you've added in, or is it again been a case of just seeing what they were doing and tweaking what they were doing before?
In terms of what
in terms of the benchmarking and the testing, yeah.
Oh, the benchmarking. So before I came in, a lot of the benchmarking was based around England's the England women's set up benchmarking, which it is good. There's nothing wrong with it, and we have got data on it, which is so important, because the women's game, there's just not a lot of data out there, unfortunately. So it is a real good place to start. The only thing with that is I think it's only 4 or 5 tests, so it just doesn't quite give you like a full breakdown. And so I came in, I just wanted more, you know, like I want to be greedy. I want as much data as I can, because the more data I have, if I don't use it, at least I've got it in the background. And if I do use it, then it can help guide whether we need to, whether a player needs, you know, more asymmetrical work, whether they need more strength or power, or whatnot, whether they have any deficiencies, etc. And it will also, as long as we've got that data, if someone gets injured, then at least we've got, you know, benchmarks to get back for. And then if we're talking about, you know, becoming a more athletic team and a more athletic club, you know, we need to know, well, yeah, she is an athlete, and here's the stats to, you know, support it. So that's where I think that relationship with the boys academy has improved and become, you know, really quite viable to us, because the more access to that kind of stuff that we've got, it's only going to help our program kind of improve and push on.
Can you go into a bit of detail on that then, Kemal, in terms of what they were doing already and what those 5 tests were, and then maybe what you wanted to then add as well?
Yeah. So in terms of the FA tests, let me get it up. They are the 1K time trial, the flying 20 sprint, the Nordic curl, the prone ISO, again on the Nord board, and the 10-5 hop test and counter movement jump. So at least, it covers a little bit of, hamstring strength, sprint ability, endurance on the 1K, and some jumping and power stuff with the 10-5 and the CMJ. But then what we've added in is we've been able to use watt bike, we've been able to use we've been able to use the groin bar, we've been able to use force plates for more jumping tests and for mid-thigh pulls and stuff like that. So we've been able to add in a lot more. And the flying 20, England recorded off of the GPS, whereas with timing gates, we've been able to break down, 5, 10, 20, 30, 40, etc. So it's just more data that we can use in terms of, what we think an athlete might need to help push on. And then so that was one of the biggest things coming from the men's game to the women's game. The men's game, if you want to know what the average counter movement jump for a League One footballer is, a quick Google search and you'll get it in a couple of minutes. Whereas with the women's game, honestly, I think I found one paper which mentioned counter movement jumps, and that was it. Outside of that, there's quite a lot of GPS data. UEFA and FIFA have been really good in terms of publishing some of the Champions League and World Cup GPS data, which has been really good, helped us set in certain goals and benchmarks that we want. But overall, I think us as a club, we're looking at it and we're thinking, well, this is something that hopefully we can add to and help the women's game push on and be better and more data led.
Yeah, all these things that come in help you, don't they? The additional data from other clubs, countries, that's going to help, isn't it? But then obviously the additional things that you're going to be collecting anyway, additional tests that you've been putting in place, that's all going to help with the programming, isn't it? And then I suppose the real art of that is selecting the right data then, isn't it? Because it's okay having it, but then what's been your approach to saying, right, this gets not necessarily disregarded, but not as focused on as much, but this is what we need to be focusing on?
Yeah, definitely. And then, not just that, but, I went to the UKSCA female athlete workshop on Friday down in Chichester. And one of the biggest things from the workshop was that there are papers out there on female athletes and stuff, but the reliability of a lot of them is not good enough either. So I think that's part of the struggle that we've got at the moment. There's not a lot of data out there. Some of the data that's out there is not reliable enough either. So I think we're kind of at the foundations here where we can really help push and drive the data that's out there to just be better and more gold standard collection.
What's the case with the reliability then, Kemal? Why is that the case?
I'm not 100% certain. It was just something that was brought up at the UKSCA workshop on Friday. So and a lot of it was around the menstrual cycle as well. Right. So I think part of it was the informing on the certain phases and stuff. Right. Yeah, there's just a lot of work that needs to go into it, and but I think everything is going in the right direction.
Well, that shows the exciting times, doesn't it? Because that lack of research allows for such a big opportunity for clubs and practitioners like yourself, doesn't it, to to hopefully supply some of that and nudge it all in the right direction.
Definitely. And I think that's where, you know, links with universities could be so important within the next couple of years in terms of helping push the game on in the right direction.
What's been your approach just finally on the benchmarking stuff in terms of frequency? Are there some, has that been like a battery of testing that you're going to be completing throughout the season? Or is some of this stuff going to be repeated pretty regularly to give you more immediate feedback?
Yeah, so I think it's something which we need to have a conversation about going into next year. And we have got a couple projects in place, and we are in conversation with a university and also with Vauld, our force plate provider and stuff like that, about a few projects that we could potentially be involved in. But I think as things stand, I think we want to do, you know, a full battery of tests at least 3 or 4 times throughout the year to, you know, see how things are progressing and, you know, inform us, check that we're on the right lines. But you know, if anyone does want to go back and watch what I presented back at the conference, you'll see a lot of the wellness stuff that I did, and that's definitely something which I want to bring into going in next year. And I think with the increase in facilities that we've got, and you know, more data coming out now on, you know, 10-5 tests and what bike tests and stuff like that, I think it's something which we could definitely incorporate within our program to utilize their own wellness and see how, you know, we can use that to inform us on a week-to-week basis rather than, you know, just a yearly, quarterly basis.
Yeah, brilliant. Yeah, I remember you going into that. Actually, you covered loads of great information. I know a lot of people took some good stuff away from that, so people can go and check it out. Kemal, in terms of the program going forward, is there anything, I know we've covered quite a bit there in terms of what you're going to move on to and the sort of ideas you want to like add into the program. Is there anything else you feel like we've left out?
I think we're just at a stage where I think the women's game is growing so much, and a lot of the clubs just need to keep up with it, really. And I think where we need to be a bit careful is that top 3 is just getting further and further ahead of everyone, and especially with it only 3 Champions League places, the rest of the league really needs to, you know, try to keep up and keep pushing. And I think Manchester United, Tottenham, and even us, you know, we did really well, and I think more and more teams are starting to take points off of, you know, that top 3, and even Birmingham, you know, who unfortunately got relegated this year, that they took a few points off of that top 3. So I think just where we need to go is we need to try to bridge that gap, and I think we slowly will, and just as a department, that's definitely one of the goals that we're pushing towards, and there's a lot of things going on behind the scenes as to how we can kind of do that.
Brilliant, mate. Well, what we'll do, Kemal, is let's move on to some of our quick fire questions on the end of the podcast. So the first one being, who are some of the biggest influences on your career so far?
Yeah. So I think Ukca from Wimex, who's now working over in Ireland, was definitely a big one. You know, he helped guide me a lot during that kind of year between bachelor's and masters, and helped me kind of figure out a few things and help guide me towards, you know, keeping on and progressing and stuff like that. But the biggest ones have definitely got to be the lecturers over at Salford. You know, Paul Comfort, Paul Jones, John McMahon. They definitely helped me and helped open my eyes up to a lot of things, and helped get my foot in the door in a couple places, and really pushed on, and yeah, just loved it. Yeah, those would definitely be the biggest influences so far.
Brilliant. And then what would you say your biggest strength is as a practitioner?
I think my my adaptability and fluidity, definitely. You know, I think when you look at a lot of the places that I've worked at before, problem solving and adapting and kind of working around have definitely been so important into making sure that the program runs and keeps going. And on top of that, I learned very quickly when I, got the first team position at Colchester, your need to be organized and have everything in plan and everything in place, and knowing exactly what you wanted to do throughout the rest of the week and what you wanted to do next week, etc. It became so vital. So I think, yeah, my organization has definitely improved tenfold, and a bit of a strength. Yeah.
Brilliant, mate. And then you just mentioned it a little bit already, but I always ask about your approach to CPD or continued learning, because there's so many different ways you can go about that now. So many sort of things that are accessible to us. What's your approach?
Yeah, I love it, and I think it's important and vital, really. I don't think you need to have a wide range of CPDs to get your foot in the door. I think experience comes first and foremost, and I think that's one of the reasons why I've been able to really push on. I just said yes to everything, and so I remember one of my first weeks up at Salford, I was just sitting at home and I got a message from Chris Thomas saying, "Oh, I'm doing a testing with the netball team next week. Do you fancy helping out?" And I didn't know him well at the time. I didn't know the netball team. I didn't know anything. Yeah, 100% happy to help out. I think experience and first-hand experience comes first and foremost. But CPDs can just help push things on. And I said it earlier on in this chat, I was looking through job descriptions, and yeah, bachelor's, I've got that. Masters, no, I've not quite got that. UKSCA, I haven't got that yet. So, CPDs are important in terms of, helping take the next steps and pushing on. And, I've done my Altis, I've done Exos, I'm finishing off my basis at the moment. I've done the NSCA CSCS, and then I've, even during lockdown, where there was nothing but online stuff going on, I was able to, do a few of the FA courses and the FIFA medical course. And yeah, when I was working at the tennis academy, I did my tennis coaching level 1. Like, I just think it's important to do CPDs, and they can help open your eyes up, and you just see different things. And yeah, but experience is definitely first and foremost.
It's really interesting, that, isn't it? And I love that you said that, because loads of people have said the same thing. But for some reason, we get caught in the trap of looking at the other way, don't we? We get caught into the trap of making sure, we need all these qualifications first, and then experience will come somewhere down the line. And the whole flipping it around the other way, I think, is a great bit of advice, because you, like you say, if you take these opportunities that are out there for everyone, really, if you go and look for them, then you never know where that's going to lead to, even if it's a relationship with a person, do you?
Yeah, and I mean, I think a lot of people think that the CPDs are more important, because nowadays it's almost impossible to get a job unless you have got UKSCA or the CSCS, or you can prove that you're working towards it. And I get it, but there's so many opportunities out there which don't need it. I worked at Enfield Town Football Club for 12 to 18 months, and they didn't require anything. They just required your time. And that was a Ryman football team, and you learn so much during that. You get given lots of responsibilities. It's only a 5 or 10 hour week, 10-hour a week gig, and that could be the difference between you getting that job that you applied for in a year's time, or not getting it. And if you're not currently doing your UKSCA or CSCS, but you're looking at doing your basis, you need those hours of work to put on your reflective profile. So yeah, get out there and do the hands-on stuff, because that's what's going to make you a better practitioner. And the CPDs are just the extras to help get your foot in the door later on. And once your foot is in the door, expand your philosophies and stuff. Brilliant,
mate. It's been class, Kamal. Really good to catch up. I know it's been a brief conversation, and you do go into loads more detail. I know it was in the Colchester role, but if people want to check that out, they can. But it's been great to catch up. If people have got questions, or they literally just want to reach out and have a chat, like, where would you direct them?
Oh, I mean, I'm on Twitter and all that stuff, but I reply to everyone on LinkedIn. So yeah, look me up on LinkedIn, and if anyone wants to chat, or if anyone wants just a quick message, more than happy to have that.
Perfect, mate. Well, I really appreciate you coming on. It's great to catch up, and all the best going into next season as well.
No, thank you very much. Cheers for having us on.